If this record is ever discovered, let it be known that I speak not in rebellion, but in confession. I am no heretic, no cultist, no traitor. I am a man who labors, prays, and bleeds as billions do, beneath the gaze of the master of mankind. And yet, I must leave these words behind, not for glory, not for remembrance, only so that somewhere, somehow, one soul may know what it was to live and to suffer in this endless city of iron and ash. I have worked the manufactorum since I was old enough to lift a tool. I have prayed before the Emperor's likeness each dawn and each dusk. I have tithed blood, sweat, and hours uncounted. That is all that is required of me, all that ever will be. But still, there was more. There was someone, and for that, perhaps, I am already damned. Week 1, Entry 1. The walls are sweating again. It's a constant, sluggish drip from the corroded pipes that run through the HAB unit. You learn to ignore it, just like you ignore the constant, bone-deep ache from the shift. But you never ignore the stink, the acrid tang of burnt promethium, the sweet rot of recycled organics, and the sharp metallic scent of rust. It's the perfume of the Imperium, and it clings to everything. No one in the propaganda vids ever mentions the smell. My life is the manufactorum, a 12-hour shift that feels like a lifetime. My world is reduced to a 3-foot space, a lever, a tray of plasteel sheets, and the grinding maw of the machine they call the Emperor's Mercy. My job is to feed it, over and over. The screech of metal on metal is the soundtrack to my existence. They tell us this is our sacred contribution, the Emperor's rhythm. They say a prayer with each stamp of the press. But all I hear is the noise. All I feel is the vibration in my teeth. It doesn't feel holy. It feels like a slow death. And still, I whisper the prayers. My lips move on autopilot. You don't dare stop. Complacency is a gateway to heresy, and heresy is everywhere. So I whisper. I pray for a shift that ends. I pray for the rations to not taste of ash. I pray to a god emperor on a golden throne so far away he might as well be a myth. You never know who's listening. Week 2, Entry 2. But then something changed. Her name was Lyra. She worked the line above mine, in the welding bay. I first noticed her not by sight, but by sound. The hiss-crack of her welder had a different rhythm than the others. It was purposeful. And then I saw her. Through the haze of smoke and the rain of sparks, she was a silhouette of intense focus. The sparks would fly around her helmet like a storm of angry fireflies. And sometimes they'd catch in the lenses of her goggles, reflecting back like 2 tiny, fierce suns. I knew it was a danger to look. Connections are a vulnerability. Attachment is a distraction from duty. Love. Love is the most indulgent heresy of all. But one shift, the alarm blared for cessation. The great machine groaned to a halt. As the crowd of workers shuffled past, a grimy faceplate was lifted, and I saw her. And she smiled. It wasn't much, a fleeting, exhausted twitch of the lips, there and then gone, erased by the grim reality of our world. But it was real, and in the soul-crushing grind of the Hive, a single, real smile is a spark that can ignite a hope powerful enough to keep you warm for weeks. Month 1, Entry 3. The routines of the Hive lull you into a false sense of security. The grind, the smell, the noise, it becomes your entire world. You forget that outside our tiny existences, the great, uncaring machine of the Imperium is always turning, and sometimes it grinds people to dust. It happened during the sleep cycle, the sudden, violent crash of metal on metal as the hab unit doors were breached. Not a polite knock, an impact, then another. The shriek of tortured hinges. Light, harsh, blinding lumens from helmet lamps flooded the darkness, cutting through the gloom of our cramped dormitory. Enforcers, not just a patrol, a full raid. Their bulky carapace armor made them look like monstrous insects in the chaotic strobe of light. Their voices were amplified, grating vox-distorted barks. Heresy! Containment! By order of the Adeptus Arbitis, the words were meant to terrify, and they did. They said something about a hidden shrine, pamphlets, sedition. Ideas are a disease here, and they burn out the infection with fire and fear. I was frozen on my bunk. I could only watch as they dragged men and women from their sleep. Some were too slow to rise, met with the crack of an electro-whip or the butt of a lasrifle. I saw old man Garen, who'd worked the smelters for 50 years, take a blow to the head for merely asking a question. He fell and didn't get up. They left him there. Others were dragged away, their pleas echoing down the hallway before being cut short by a sealed door. And in that chaos, in that raw, naked fear, I felt a hand find mine in the darkness. It was Lyra. Her bunk was across the aisle. Her fingers clutched at mine, not for romance, but for anchor. A desperate human need to not be alone in the face of the abyss. I could feel her pulse racing against my skin, the fine tremors that ran through her arm. I held on just as tightly. My own heart was a drum against my ribs. In that moment, I wasn't a cog in a machine. I was just a man, terrified. And for the first time in years, that terror made me feel utterly, completely alive. I don't know if that makes me weak, or if it's the most human I've ever been. Month 2. Entry 4. We meet in secret now. After the shift, when the sirens die and the drones pass overhead, we slip into the forgotten tunnels near the coolant lines. No one goes there. The air tastes of iron and oil, and the heat is oppressive. But down there, beneath the notice of the overseers and the enforcers, we are free. Or as free as anyone can be in this place. It is our kingdom of shadows and steam. She told me her brother was taken in the last tithe, pressed into the guard. She doesn't expect him to survive. She laughed when she said it. A laugh with no joy, just a hollow sound of accepted despair. That sound will haunt me, I think, longer than any siren. Still, when she rests her head against my chest, the whole hive seems to fade. The constant clatter of machines, the droning sermons from the voxcasters, the ever-present stink, even the fear. It all just melts away. For a moment, it's just us. 2 sparks in the immense darkness, and it feels like a sin worth dying for. Month 3. Entry Voy. There's talk of ration cuts. The overseers say the war effort demands more steel, more weapons, always more. The front lines are always hungry, and we are the teeth that must be sharpened. The line never stops. It can't stop. I saw a man today, old before his time, just collapse. His heart gave out. They dragged his body away and had his replacement at the station before the spot on the floor where he fell was even clean. The machine must be fed. Lyra's cough is getting worse. The ash from the smelters never leaves our lungs. It settles in, a slow, dry poison. She hides it well during the day, stifling the rasps into her sleeve. But in our tunnels, when it's just us, the sound rattles out of her chest, deep and wet and wrong. I press my hand against her back, feel the vibrations of each cough, and whisper the prayers I don't believe anymore. The words are ash in my mouth. If the Emperor truly watches, if he cares for even the smallest of his subjects, I beg on my worthless soul that he spares her. But deep down, in the part of me that's still honest, I know. Prayers don't matter. Only the machine matters. Month 4. Entry 6. They took her. They took her. The enforcers swept the manufactorum during shift. No warning. Just the scream of the alarm and the thunder of their boots on the gantries. Someone reported subversive whispers, they said. Heard something unapproved. They never say who. They dragged her away mid-weld, the torch still sputtering in her hand, sparks still clinging to her grimy overalls like dying stars. I shouted her name. I fought through the press of stunned bodies, tried to reach her, to do something, anything. A rifle butt came out of nowhere, cracked against my temple, sent me sprawling to the oily floor. My head still rings from the blow, a constant, high-pitched whine that drowns out the memory of her welder's song. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at me as they hauled her away. That look, it wasn't fear, it was certainty. And it burned brighter than any welding spark ever did. I don't know where she is now. I don't know if she's alive. Month 5, Entry 7. Rumors spread like rot in this place. They move through the ventilation shafts and the ration lines. They say she was taken to the sub-level cells for questioning. They say she confessed to heresy. They say she named names, gave them a list of other malcontents. Lies. All of it. She would never. She was stronger than that. She was stronger than all of this. I can still feel the ghost of her hand in mine. I can still see the fire in her eyes, that last look she gave me. The hive feels darker without her light. The stink is heavier, the days are longer, the noise is louder. I move through the shifts like a ghost, a phantom going through the motions. If she's dead, I don't want to know. The not knowing is a pain I can almost manage. The certainty would be the end of me. And if she's alive, by the throne, if she's alive, I'll find her. Somehow. Month 6, Entry 8. I finally saw her. Just once. They paraded her through the Hab block square for the edification of the masses, shackled and broken. Her head was shaved, revealing bruises and pale skin. Her body was a canvas of what they had done. She could barely stand, held up by 2 brutes in enforcer armor. The preacher, his voice amplified by a crackling vox-hailer, screamed her crimes to the crowd, consorting with seditionists, distributing blasphemous texts, heresy against the God Emperor of mankind. The crowd's chant was a mindless wave of sound. They burned her alive beneath his statue. The promethium smoke curled into the black sky, a final, bitter offering joining the endless smog. The crowd chanted their prayers, but my voice stayed silent. My throat closed, my chest hollowed out, empty of everything, even air. I could not speak. I could not breathe. She looked at me before the fire consumed her. Just once. That same look from the manufactorum. Not fear, not despair, defiance, love. A final, silent message. And it is that look, not the fire, that will keep me awake for every night that remains to me. Month 7, Entry 9. The tunnels feel empty now. I still go there, though. I sit in the dark, in our place, and listen to the dripping pipes. I breathe the stale air that still smells faintly of her, of us. I remember her laughter, a sound I realize I heard so rarely. I remember her cough, that terrible, wrenching sound that worried me so. I remember the weight of her head against my chest, and the peace it brought us both. The hive consumes everything. Steel, flesh, hope, love, even memory. It grinds it all down to dust to feed the endless war. But I refuse. I refuse to let it consume her. Not while I live. Not while I remember. Every day I still whisper the prayers, but not to the Emperor. Not anymore. He gets enough prayers. He gets enough souls. I whisper them to her, to Lyra, my heresy, my love. Final note. If anyone finds this record of a life, know this. Life in the Hive is not life. It is existence, a biological function. The machines never stop, the overseers never rest, the sermons never end. But amid all that noise and darkness, there are sparks. Small, fleeting sparks of something real, something human. And sometimes, if you're foolish enough, if you're brave enough, you'll reach for one. I did. And though it burned me, though it consumed me, I'd reach for it again, without hesitation, for Lyra, for love.